First of all, I just want to say I love you all. I cannot believe how much love the last video got. And I've had a bit of a week. I don't know why I'm laughing. I invested a fair bit of money trying to create this cool looking table. And it's not worked. Yeah, it's really not worked. So I decided I'm just going to stick to trying to organise the garage a little bit. I need somewhere for these. Because it turns out, when you build a shelf out of a piece of laminate flooring you pulled up from the kitchen that was only supposed to be temporary, they tend to hang around for a year. However, for my expensive failed project, I ended up with quite a few of these pallets because I only needed the stretchers. Let's use them. Let's build some decent shelves. I'm going to move all this back now. God's sake! The project begins, as always with pallet wood, getting the nails out. So I've just turned the boards over and I'm just hammering the nails out before I discover something. Anyway, before I share that with you, if you want to see footage of my failed project, I'm more than happy to share it. I don't know what kind of video it would make, but I'm more than willing to share my mistakes and be open with you. It was a lot of hours. I put a lot of hours into it and I am really stuck with it, and it did get me down a little bit this week, I'm not going to lie. Okay, I've got a really, really important tip for you guys. Please don't learn this the hard way. If ever you're breaking down a pallet, let that focus, and you see these coppery bits on the nails, do not put it through your thicknesser. Even if you get the nail out cleanly, those copper bits are designed to stay in the wood. It's what makes the nails so strong and the pallet so sturdy. But please, if you see those, don't put them through the thicknesser. Try not to even go through with the mitre saw unless you've got a multi-purpose blade. Sometimes you've just got to keep the balls rustic. Now I've got all those killer nails taken out, I've got 8 equal lengths of fairly decent pallet wood. Now I did want to thickness them to have a uniform thickness because I was going to rabbit the shelving together to make it extra sturdy and without having to use loads of screws. I don't know if I can do that now because everything's a bit rough. But I basically want a shelf to run down 2 runners there. Do you call those the fences or the stile parts? I don't need it to be very wide. In fact, I don't want it to be very wide because this wood pile does tend to creep out every once in a while. I just need it to be strong enough to hold a load of finishes. With that in mind, I take it over to the mitre saw. Now I've got 2 things in mind for this project. Number 1, trying to use just 1 pallet's worth of wood. Number 2 is the amount of comments recently that have been about me not using Festool tools and things like that. Like, they make me laugh, but it's true. Most of us don't have them. So I'm going to try and stick to just using the mitre saw and a drill and an impact driver. I'm cutting the actual shelves here. Now I'm cutting around those nail holes. I have got a multi-purpose blade in my mitre saw, but it doesn't mean that I want to be blunting it. The shelves themselves will be just under 400mm wide. And at the minute I've got an idea in my head about how I want it to work, but that will change later because I am hugely trying to overcomplicate this. Okay. This is a weird place to film, I know. But I've been trying to overcomplicate this. I was going to try and attach it to the wall, but I don't like drilling into breeze blocks because you do need to put in loads of screws because not all of them hold tight, as I found with my French cleat wall. But that bit of wood there is a lip. So I think I'm going to design it so it comes up higher and have some hooky things just to hook it on. I'm trying to keep this simple, and that seems simple. Don't listen to this idiot. That wasn't a simple idea, and it was far too complicated using too many tools. Just follow along and you'll see the most simple solution, just screwing it in. I'd love to say I changed my mind at that point because I'd thought of this simple idea, but I didn't. I went ahead with my hooky things and I used my patented chiselling technique of basically just hammering away with the blunt chisel. And I almost made the hook, and then I thought I'd give it a few little love taps with that. Oh. That's not the end of.
Yes, you idiot. Yes, you did. You're not having a good week, are you?
Okay, I realised. The ideas flown round in my head were to make this fancy piece of furniture shelving. It's for the garage, it's made out of pallet wood. So I'm going to use the rabbiting feature, but I'm going to do it for strength. So these boards are going to sit flat to the wall, and then I can screw them into the bit of timber at the top. I'm going to rabbit into one of these, then that supports at the back. Then I'm simply going to put some kind of 45-degree right angle triangle, that's what they're called, which is 90. Let me just show you.
And that's it. That's the advanced feature of this mitre saw. Literally just a little flap of metal that you push down, and then it basically just blocks the depth your mitre saw can go. Now to do this you do need a sacrificial piece of wood at the back, because of the curvature of the blade. It means that when you haven't got a depth that the saw can get all the way down to, then you get the curved angle of the blade in your wood, unless you've got a sacrificial piece at the back, which is one of those hooky things that I no longer require. All you do is mark on the board where you want your trench to be, and then you simply move it along just a couple of millimeters each time until you've made some grooves like that. Then they just snap off. You can use a hammer or your fingers to get splinters, and then you go through with a chisel. This looks like a tedious process, but in all honesty it takes a couple of minutes, and it gives you a lot of strength and secureness with your shelves that you wouldn't really get with just glue and screws. As long as your first two cuts with the mitre saw, the two outer ones, were accurate, then you really can't go wrong. Even me, with my blunt chisels and my very poor chiselling skills, managed to make a decent rabbit that the shelf would sit in. This will all work better if you're working with better wood, but I'm not.
So that's basically how you do a rabbit. I think it's called a rabbit, I keep calling it that, on the mitre saw using the trenching feature. It's called a trenching feature, but it's literally just a piece of metal and a screw. Anyway, the reason this is such a good solution for shelving is because most of the force comes down. Now, if you can have your shelf sitting on that, it means that it can't physically go down. Also, it's an increased surface area for glue. If you're using finer wood, as in wood that's been thicknessed without killer nails, then you of course want to spend a bit more time and make it look pretty. But for my purposes, winner. Now I've just got to do the rest of them. Okay, I forgot to press record because I'm a professional, but this is what I've done. As you can see, I've laid the slats, the shelves if you like, into those grooves that I cut before, the rabbits I think. Then I've got these braces. Now I'm putting these braces on the outside because I want my shelves to be a double board thick. Now I've got no option to glue them or anything like that because that's not going to provide any strength and they're too rough to glue anyway. My original thought was to have these brackets sit flush on the inside, but then I'd be screwing through the bottom of a shelf into like the end grain here. Yeah, you go in slightly across the grain, but it wouldn't provide the most structure. So what I've actually done is put these brackets, braces if you like, on the outside. Then I can screw through the grain of the backboard, and I'm only going into the end grain of the shelf, which won't matter as much. Structurally, it's better. All I've done as well is I've pre-drilled and countersunk 3 holes so far. I'm going to need to do more for the front shelves, but I'll show you that in a minute if I press record this time.
Yes, once again, as a YouTuber, my professionalism shines through. Anyway, I did go to attach these and I did press record this time, and you get to see me just screw in some screws into a piece of wood. But you can see the outline of the framing now, at least.
And that's kind of the idea. That's my shelving unit. Now all I've got to do is slot these in. I'll show you in a minute. And then I'll screw through 2 more screws to hold that in place. I'm really not going to bother with any glue because this wood is just too rough. It won't adhere properly.
And that's exactly what I did. A little bit like the tape trick on my last video. I feel a bit of a fraud even showing you this process, but I didn't want something to appear in the garage and you not really know where it came from. So even though these shelves are really simple and clearly a monkey could make them, I did want to share the process with you and just show you that you don't necessarily need a lot of money and a lot of tools just to build some sturdy shelving. And you'll find out at the end, like, this shelving is pretty much bomb-proof. With the final parts of the shelves in place, I come back through with a countersunk bit and I screw 3 screw holes at varying heights into the top of the shelves. These are going to screw into that bracket, or joist I should say, that runs along the top of the brickwork in the garage. I don't show it on video, but I did come back through later on and add 2 stainless steel screws into the bottom. They're not going to provide any structural support, but they will just stop any wobble from the shelves. And that's kind of it. It doesn't really look very pretty, but it does serve its purpose. They are strong and sturdy shelves, they are out of the way of my wood pile, and, conveniently, they go around those wires that run down the wall. I didn't have to work near them at all, so that was kind of an added bonus. Now, if you've enjoyed watching me completely mess up this project and enjoy my misery at messing up my last project, then it would be really good if you could give me a sympathy like. That'd be really appreciated.
So there you have it. The world's easiest to build shelves. Are they pretty? No. Were they easy to build? Very. Did it take me less than an hour to create them? Yes. Did it cost me anything? No. Do I have time for a beer before I go in and cook tea? Yeah. Cheers.